Welcome to That's Wild Podcast, the podcast that explores the amazing natural world that surrounds us and astounds us. I'm your MC, Dustin Bean, and our hosts, Susan Altrui and Joy Matlock, will share insights and mind-blowing facts that will leave you saying, "That's wild." It's all about inspiring you, the listener, to value and conserve our natural world. That's Wild is brought to you by the Arkansas Zoological Foundation and produced by the Little Rock Zoo. So with that, let's get wild.
This is That's Wild from the Little Rock Zoo.
And today, we are holding court.
Normally, I would be the judge.
But today, we're switching it up.
Some cases, I'll judge.
And some, I will judge.
Which means sometimes I'll be the prosecutor.
And sometimes it'll be me.
But every case will have the same defense attorney.
Which leads us to our guest today. Miss Jessica Briley is the Conservation Education Manager for the Little Rock Zoo. She leads the zoo's conservation learning and engagement initiatives designed to instill a renewed sense of wonderment in nature and a commitment to saving wildlife.
Before joining the city of Little Rock, the Little Rock Zoo, she worked at several AZA-accredited zoos, including the Houston Zoo, the Bronx Zoo, and the Phoenix Zoo.
Jessica, welcome to the court.
Thank you. Happy to be here and to represent the underrepresented.
Court is in session. The court calls the Madagascar hissing cockroach. Prosecutor, your charge?
Being shiny in a suspicious way, making eye contact when it shouldn't, and hissing like it pays rent.
Strong accusations. Defense?
Oh, well, today I think the conversation is about our friends without backbones. So we are talking about insects and we are talking about arachnids. And for the Madagascar hissing cockroach, this species does not invade homes. So this is not the cockroach you might see scurrying around your home or your neighborhood. This species is found in the forests of Madagascar, living on the forest floor. That hiss, it's actually pretty cool. It is a function. They have these special things called spiracles in their exoskeleton, and those are almost like breathing pores. And so that hiss you hear is air being forcefully expelled through those spiracles, and they can use that for defense, for mating purposes, for territorial disputes. Ecologically, these cockroaches are decomposers. So they play a really important role in helping to cycle nutrients back into the soil. They're going to be munching on plant matter. They're going to be helping to clean up any animal remains. And if we didn't have them, those nutrients aren't going to break down properly, and that's going to slow the growth of the forest. So they're really important to the health of the ecosystem and to keep life going.
Okay, so it's not necessarily chaos, it's composting with an attitude.
Yes.
Court finds helpful but dramatic.
Okay. Next case, Asian forest scorpion. The court will now hear the case of the Asian forest scorpion. Prosecutor.
Your Honor, Exhibit A, venom. Exhibit B, tail weaponry. Exhibit C, nocturnal lurking. I rest my case.
Nocturnal lurking. I love that.
Defense, what say you?
All right. So scorpions, they do have venom. And it does come from the telson, which is that really unique bulbous structure on the end of their tails. They use that for both protection, to defend themselves, and to hunt. For humans, this sting is, for most people, probably comparable to a bee's sting. And you'd have to get pretty close to actually be stung by one of these guys. Fun fact real quick, scorpions are arachnids, so they're not a bug, they're not an insect. They also don't see very well, so while they do spend time where there's limited light at nighttime, that's when they're usually most active, they are sensing their environment with small hairs along their body. Those are called trichobothria, so very similar to if you think about a lot of mammals have whiskers on their face to be able to sense around their environment. You can think about that with the scorpion as well. And here's something wild. So scorpions can glow under ultraviolet black light.
Excuse me?
Yes, exactly. Their exoskeleton contains special compounds that fluoresce under UV light. And scientists are still trying to figure out like what is actually happening with that, but it's one of the coolest ways you can spot them in the wild. They've also been around for 400 million years. So they've been around for a while. Ecologically, they're mid-level predators. So there are animals that rely on this species for food, and then they're also helping to regulate insect populations. Without predators like scorpions, insect populations, bug populations, they spike and ecosystems will shift.
400 million years? That's not ancient, that's seasoned.
So, glow acknowledged, longevity acknowledged, court fines intimidating, but undeniably impressive.
Case 3, the Goliath birdeater. Next defendant, the Goliath birdeater. Prosecutor?
Your Honor, I object to the name alone. Bird eater feels like a villain origin story.
Defense may clarify.
All right, so love this arachnid. Despite its name as a bit of a misnomer, the Goliath bird eater's primary diet is going to be insects, frogs, small animals, and small vertebrates, right? And it's the largest spider on Earth by mass. It grows by molting, and so this is what all invertebrates do. They have to shed that outer protective layer they have in order to grow. So that exoskeleton, they have to molt through that, and they're actually very vulnerable when they go through that process. Large predators like this, though, they help regulate smaller animal populations, especially in the rainforest ecosystems where this guy is found in South America. Predators maintain balance, and even the eight-legged ones are important.
So I respect the ecosystem. I do not respect the leg count, however.
Court finds guilty of bad branding, not the ecological harm.
Case number 4, Monarch butterfly. And it's the final case before the court adjourns. Prosecutor?
Your Honor, I'd like to note this defendant travels up to 3,000 miles. Suspicious levels of ambition.
Defense, what say ye?
So yes, monarchs do migrate up to 3,000 miles between North America and their overwintering grounds in central Mexico. This is done where multiple generations are required basically to make this arduous journey, and one super generation overwinters in really dense forest clusters. As caterpillars, though, they feed on milkweed. Have you all heard of milkweed before?
I have.
Yeah, they have really, really beautiful flowers. So milkweed stores toxins, or it creates toxins. That's one of its defense mechanisms as a plant to not be eaten. Well, monarch caterpillars, they're actually able to munch on that milkweed and synthesize that toxin that actually allows them to protect themselves from predators. They're pollinators, they're bioindicators, and when monarch numbers decline, it signals that habitat loss and ecosystem stress is happening. It's never just about the butterfly.
3,000 miles on wings made of stained glass. Meanwhile, I complain about airport layovers.
Court finds iconic. So let's switch gears. Thank you for joining us in our little game of Bug Court.
Absolutely.
That was
very
fun.
a bit ridiculous and wonderful all in one.
And educational.
It was great.
Yeah, it was
I
good.
think there's a lot more to dive into. You've got a very nerdy insect person here with you.
So why Bugtopia? Why make these insects giant?
Because Bugtopia is designed to magnify the world beneath our feet, so guests can observe the anatomy and design features normally overlooked. It's less about giant bugs invading our space and more about us stepping into theirs. Think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
That's a really great visual perspective there, right? When you feel like you're in their world, you start to observe things, notice things a little bit differently. Perhaps even wonder what it's like to be a bug. Have you ever considered that before?
Not really.
So think about, how would I navigate? How would I get around? Am I going to have wings? Am I going to scurry? Am I going to dig? How do you avoid predators? So a lot of the insects, bugs, arachnids that we oftentimes fear, It's based on a lot of those adaptations they have just to survive their everyday. How do you survive being so small? What other things are helping them to camouflage or be able to stick out in a way that helps them to survive? What seems insignificant to us suddenly feels complex and essential, similar to how we go about our daily lives.
So instead of an you factor, it's more like, how does that even work?
Exactly.
Before we adjourn defense, you have the floor.
Well, insects and arachnids, this whole group we're talking about, they're not charismatic megafauna, right? So they're not like the elephant, the tiger, the dolphin, these creatures that oftentimes people love and think are very cute or majestic. Insects aren't really asking to be liked, though, but we want to shine the spotlight on them. They help pollinate our crops. They break down waste. They help with nutrient cycling. They aerate our soils. They feed so many other creatures. I don't know if I don't think I mentioned this, but when we talk about arthropods, 97% of the species on Earth are these animals without backbones. That's a huge population.
That's a huge number.
So when insect populations go down, when these groups decrease, it affects entire food ecosystems. Birds, reptiles, mammals, even humans rely on insects for nutrition. It doesn't happen dramatically at first, but you start noticing fewer pollinators, fewer birds, maybe less resilience in ecosystems. How is that affecting our food systems, our crops? Bugtopia helps us to pause, look a little bit closer, maybe shift that perspective. When you feel like you're standing inside their world, you realize what might be tiny or insignificant. Inside their world, it actually holds everything together. So what we're hoping is curiosity leads to care, potentially, and that care will lead to action.
Jessica, we have been saying bugs, insects, and then later on you said and arachnids. So help us understand, are we correct to use those terms interchangeably? What's the difference? What do lay people need to understand?
Absolutely. Well, go on a little nerdy journey with me. So really, when we get down to it, we're talking about the difference of animals that have backbones like us. So we're vertebrates. And then we're really talking about the invertebrates in the animal world. So they don't have a backbone like us. They wear their armor on the outside. So when we talk about bugs, insects, arachnids, they have that exoskeleton. They have that armor on the outside of their body, and then they're nice and squishy on the inside. I see you wincing at that, Dustin.
Nice and squishy.
Yeah, so when we talk about insects, we talk about true bugs. There are some differences. So insects, they have, the 6 jointed legs, the 3 body parts. They have a complete life cycle. So they go through body changes and look different along every single stage of that. They also have chewing mandibles. So when you think about grasshoppers, when you think about beetles, the insects that are chewing on their food, true bugs are a special order within that. And so they have a straw-like proboscis. So think about sucking the food out, or that's how they're able to process food. They have an incomplete metamorphosis. So their nymph stage looks like an adult, it's just smaller. So think about things like aphids, cicadas, stink bugs. So those are examples of true bugs. And they have unique kind of semi-hardened wings. I know this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit.
Like the bugs.
Yeah. And then with arachnids, that's a different group altogether. So with arachnids, most people think just spiders, right?
Right, I did.
But arachnids are spiders, that's ticks, that's scorpions, and that's mites. Those are some of the individuals that are in the arachnid group.
So I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
So what is it that in the arachnid family that a spider has in common with the tick, with the mite, that makes them be in the same grouping? Because that's hard for me to conceptualize.
Ooh. I feel like we're probably not going to go that deep into it.
Okay.
But I think what's unique about when we talk about other insects, and then when we start talking about arachnids, you're talking about critters that use venom.
Okay.
Right? So with the scorpion, we talked about the telson, that really unique tail structure they have, that then they have a stinger that they go ahead and use. That gets a little bit complicated because bees have stingers too, right? And they're over in the insect group. So there's some crossover, but it all goes back to a lot of the body layout that they have. So again, all of the group in arachnids, they have the 8 legs, they have the 2 body segments, they don't have wings. A lot of them have those special I just forgot how to say it. Trichobothria. There we go. All of the sensory hairs that they have. So those are some of the similarities that when you come to Bugtopia and you actually get to see these large sculptures, you're going to see some of those different features that are enlarged that maybe you can't see when you look at an insect crawling across, a leaf, or you're trying to get it out of your house.
If you're listening to this, my face is like, oh my, that's a lot of information.
It is.
And it's interesting to know that there's so many different classifications. I think of bugs are bugs, insects are the same, but know that there's a big difference. And then there's like X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, bullet point, 1A. It's mind blowing. It's crazy. So thanks for being the expert here today.
Absolutely. And I've got to say, my team has been really geeked out about this. We have a bug binder, like we are going deep into the weeds for our guests with this. However, that is something where there are professionals, entomologists, that spend their entire careers and lives studying this really tiny world that most of us take for granted. And so I'm not an entomologist by training. I just have a passion for them and want to make sure we get this message out.
So you mentioned you and your team, the educators or the education department at the Little Rock Zoo. With that, what can our guests expect when they come to visit this? Is there anything that your team will be on ground seasonally? Tell us more.
Absolutely. So on top of having a really nice mix of climbable sculptures in our nature play area, animatronics, I've heard, they're getting set up right now. And also the sculptures that we need to give some distance to. That's what you can enjoy every single day. Our team will be doing on-site activations Wednesday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we will have a naturalist station to dive into the world of citizen science. So what we can actually do to help scientists learn more about insects, what we can do to bug out a little bit and your face, Dustin, and be able to explore that world a little bit more. So anyone who gets super excited about, the different types of dinosaurs, the different types of birds, there's a group of children out there and adults, we're all children at heart, who want to dive in deeper and get into all the nuance. So we'll have that naturalist station, and then we'll have pop-up play. So being able to turn over logs, be able to dig around a little bit more and think about life as a bug or an insect.
And I think one thing, whether you're young, you're old, you're a boy, you're a girl, whatever, like everyone, whether you really want to dive deep on them or not, they're really cool. They're colorful, they're bright, they're large, some move, some animatronics, some are going to make noise. So whether you really dig deep or you want to just enjoy them, it is something new and something fun that we're really excited about.
Absolutely. And we're also hoping that especially the adults that come to see this exhibition with their children, we're hoping that we can help inspire some shift in thought of strange can be beautiful, maybe, or that something that maybe we can be a little scared about, that maybe we can adopt some practices to pause. One of the favorite things we like to teach, especially around arachnids, is so many people can be fearful of them, even people in our offices at work, and being able to pause and just say, oh, hello there, friend. Being able to build habits or ways to think about the other organisms, the other creatures that live around us, and adopt that curiosity and maybe empathy focused mindset rather than the immediate thought of, oh, I have to crush that, or, oh,
think before you squish it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is that pause? And oh, hello. And then you'll maybe notice something different and come up with a strategy to help usher it out of your house or out of your space without
when that Goliath birdeater comes in your office, I need you to pause and appreciate it.
I'm going to pause and call Dustin. That's what I'm
going to call Jessica.
Yes. Hey, I've had a spider resident living in my shower before, and it's great to have you stay over there. I stay over here.
You're so sweet. It's like, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, tarantula.
Absolutely.
I'm taking my shower. So,
not a tarantula, a little spider.
I do have a kind of a follow-up on, you've talked very much about the education team getting excited and wanting to get the message out to our guests when they come through about the bugs and the insects that we're going to have. My question is, because I have a little insight on what you're going to talk about, talk us through the different sections, because this is going to be a long-running show, March through September, and we're going to have lots of months. And rather than the one message for all of those months. We're going to have different messages throughout the season. So let's talk about that.
Absolutely. We're hoping to have a little bit of a metamorphosis of our message.
You're such an educator, and I love it.
I am. So really, we're kind of tapping into seasonality and also the life cycle of insects, just that idea of 3. We know the last time we did a large exhibition like this, we were really focused on a lot of the same message the whole time. And we found we actually had members and guests who wanted to come back time and again. And how can we keep that information, that messaging fresh? How can we learn something new? So we're breaking it up into our spring, summer, and fall season. So while we will have nature play and while we'll have citizen science for all of that duration, we're going to be focused in the spring. If you look at the world around us right now, everything's starting to come to life, right? So we have a lot of dormancy in winter. You don't see that life. And suddenly the sunshine and the heat, everything starts growing. You start to hear the buzzing and the chirping.
This is my favorite time of the year. I get
It's
really excited.
so exciting, isn't
I joke and
it?
say it's Kroger fern season. When you see the ferns at Kroger,
Yes.
you know it's that warmer days are coming.
Yeah, so we're really leaning into that kind of exploration of the world around you first. Again, trying to develop that curiosity, that wonder, and really just focusing on those observation skills and pausing and reflecting and taking in all of the beauty that's around us and hopefully extending that to our Bugtopia friends that we're bringing in. In the summer, we're going to be transitioning to think a little bit more about what can we do? So what is it and what is the important role that insects, arachnids, all of these invertebrates have in our world and in our life? So being able to change up our citizen science projects a little bit, shift a little bit of that messaging. So we can also reflect on, what are practices we do? I mean, we can't overlook the fact that it's the South, right?
I was going to say, let's talk about those seasons and the pesky ones that may not
Yes.
always be my favorite. And you mentioned ticks. No one loves it. I mean,
Right. And so we don't want to come into this with rose-colored glasses, right? We recognize that while insects are beneficial, while every organism has a role, they also can impact us. So I'm a mosquito magnet. I have to be really careful, especially as we start getting into the wet, muggy months, that I have bumps everywhere because I'm being eaten by mosquitoes. What we're hoping is to inspire conversation about, are there good, better, best methods for being able to tackle pest control, those types of things. I mean, as much as we have animals on grounds that eat insects, right? We have to take care of those populations. We also have to be mindful of, we are an institution that has animals, and anyone who has a pet at home also knows we have to manage for the other, what we would consider pests coming into that space to also take advantage of the resources, be able to survive in that way. So being mindful about, what kind of bug spray are you using? Are there natural options you can use? How are you managing your lawn or your garden space? Where can you find the standing water that's going to be breeding grounds for mosquitoes? Ticks are a really big deal because they carry Lyme disease, right? Unsung hero are the animals that eat ticks, right? And so being able to think about the total connection between all of those different species of taking care of the other wildlife that might come into our yards because they're going to be eating those insects that we might not love so much. And also thinking about the type of plants and the type of treatments we use in our yards, if we have yards, or in our neighborhoods. Because oftentimes ornamentals can be brought in, whether that's trees or bushes or flowers, whether those are imported and maybe don't fit the current ecological niche that we have here. Sometimes they can become invasive, or it can become a problem for that life cycle of insects. So we talk about monarch butterflies, right? We're part of that migratory pathway. We're also in a region that stays warm enough that if people are buying tropical milkweed is used to really hot temperatures. Here in the South, it stays warm long enough for it to keep growing. It's not going to go through a natural dieback cycle. So we're going to continue to see monarchs laying eggs. We're going to continue to see the caterpillars hatching out, and then they're not going to have the food they need by the time it gets cold and there's no more food. So being mindful of, are you planting a native pollinator garden? Figuring out and talking with your local professionals about what are the wildflowers, what are the perennials that you can establish in your yards and your neighborhoods that you can then either cut back or let stand for the winter. One of the big things that people talk about in fall, winter, and then early spring is all the leaves, right? So we go through the natural cycle of the trees losing all of those leaves. The leaf litter is the winter home for a lot of different species to overwinter, not just insects, but small mammals and things like that. And so when we take up the leaves too early, or we don't leave any behind, when we cut all of the plants back really far, then we're not leaving the places for the little insects to crawl into to overwinter. That's when we start seeing, our firefly populations decreasing, or even the solitary bees that are responsible for so much pollination in the world. They aren't hive oriented like the European honeybees that we all love because of the sweet treats we get, but they actually dig burrows into the ground, or they have other places that they're laying their eggs and where they're going to overwinter. So just being mindful about the seasonality and what we can tolerate and what we're willing to endure to keep our ecosystems around us functioning, because we are part of that food web. We are part of that total system. And the choices we make can have really good impacts, not only for us, but all of the other species that ultimately end up affecting our lives as well.
Fun story. A family, I love them when they come to visit the zoo. My niece, my grandma, my mom, or anybody that comes to visit. But specifically this day, Grandma Joyce was with us, and she always has kept a perfect lawn. It's always perfectly mowed. Maybe not perfect to what we're saying in all of this, but let's say an old school perfect lawn. She has hostas. They grow bigger and bigger every year. So they were coming to visit the zoo. Melissa, our horticulturalist, was on grounds. I'm really proud of Grandma Joyce. I was like, want to introduce everybody. So Melissa kindly put her, shears down or whatever she was doing and came over
that.
and visited with us. And she was actually cleaning up and doing some good stuff. And they had a conversation, and the hostas were beautiful green, but they had tall stems with purple cone flowers. And I'm probably not correct on that, but it's some sort of a flower. And Grandma Joyce just says, well, I cut those things off. I don't like the way it looks. I just like the perfect green mound. And Melissa, the look on her face, she was brokenhearted in knowing that Grandma Joyce was cutting the flower off because of beauty. And that, in Grandma's eyes, that wasn't beautiful. And now Grandma Joyce allows them to grow. She embraces what it is because of Melissa's interaction. And that's what you and your team are going to be able to do, is to inspire people to do something different, or not even know that there's an importance in that little purple flower.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on something that you said that's really important for us in conservation learning and engagement when we're talking about trying to help people along the behavior change pathway, right? So we want to meet people where they're at, and perfect is not what we're going for. I think in this day and age, you see a lot of greenwashing, you see a lot of utopian ideas that oftentimes circulate on social media on what the ideal is, but really the ideal is imperfection, and that we're all trying and we're adopting these little habits that over time cumulatively make a really big impact. So the fact that Grandma now changes her habits because she's now empowered with information and knows what she's doing is going to impact wildlife in a certain way, how incredible. And that's the pathway that we try to take our guests on, of, especially with Bugtopia. We're hoping to go from that fear, aversion pathway to, okay, curiosity, what's next? Okay, maybe I'm inspired to take some action now.
That's great. That's great. And hopefully what the energy that your team has put in, the hard work, will shine through for our guests, and they'll walk away with that knowledge, we hope.
Absolutely. Well, I know that we've been bugging out here for a little bit.
It never gets old.
And I'm just going to keep using that one. But the final stage of Bugtopia is in the fall. And we are so lucky where we live here in the South to be part of the Monarch migration and also birding migration. And so as we are getting ready to wish a fond farewell to all of the critters that are not invading the zoo, but gracing us with their presence, we are going to send them off on a fond farewell and think about our own migrations that we were going to get to witness here in Little Rock, and be able to focus on like the beautiful monarch butterfly and all of those. So it's going to be a really fun 6 months, like half the year that we're spending talking about
tiring,
these.
exhausting.
Yes,
Yep.
totally. But I think it's going to be really good.
Well, thank you so much. This has been fun, and we are lucky to have you as part of our team. You inspired us and shared so much cool stuff. Thanks.
Happy to be here.
Bugtopia runs March 21st through September 20th at the Little Rock Zoo. 7 months, a new perspective, a chance to look closer.
Come see the giants.
Leave noticing the small things.
Stay wild.